Hey everybody, so Farm Friday. Today I just want to show you where the site of our next project. We're going to be putting in a greenhouse. So this little structure here behind me is our garden shed. And as you can see, it's like 6 by 8 or so, I think. And basically what we're gonna do, well, we're kind of going through a couple of different like iterations of what we might, how we might put it together. My husband's doing all of that fun work, but we're going to put our greenhouse, like put it up against the backside of this shed, which the backside of the shed is just plywood. It's just painted plywood. There's no siding on it or anything, so it'll protect that. Fortunately, this is the south side of the shed, so it's not as battered as it would be if it was on the other side. But it definitely, my husband started to put some siding up, and then the angles were so wonky, and it just isn't like super symmetrical. So he was finding it to be really difficult, so he was just like, screw it. And so, we started talking about putting up a greenhouse, and this is the site we decided on. One, because it's just the most kind of convenient, because there's the garden right there, and also because it'll protect this side of the shed, and depending on how we build it, it'll just be easier for him to mow around, so that it's not like it's a standalone structure that like yet another structure that he has to mow around. So it'll be part of this little structure. And then it'll be less space for him to mow, and he'll just mow around it. So that's kind of the idea. Like, I was thinking like kind of mirroring the garden shed, but maybe not as tall. Cause the shed's pretty tall, and I don't really need the greenhouse to be that tall. Just to kind of cut down on, materials. And so we've gone through several different kind of iterations of how we want to do it. At first we were like, well, maybe, I was thinking A-frame, but then he was like, maybe like more of a salt box, style. And then he's been watching tons of YouTube videos and looking at plans of different ways to build it. And also looking for free or inexpensive materials, because the materials for it aren't cheap. So he's found some different things on like Facebook Marketplace, and there's a big garden center near here that he just happened to be driving by, and they were taking down the siding of their greenhouse, and he stopped in. He's like, "Can I have that?" And they're like, well, maybe we might use it somewhere else, but maybe give us a call in a few days. So we're working on that. And so yeah, we've got different ideas of how we're gonna do this. And I'll be making videos, sporadically, as it's coming along. So it's definitely gonna be the floor is gonna be raised up a bit. I don't know what we're gonna do underneath. That's something that we haven't really talked about that much. But the floor will be raised up a little bit. We're talking about maybe putting planters inside of it, so I can plant inside of it as well as use it as a place to start seeds, and stuff like that. So there'll be, like, my thought is right now, and this probably will change, but is to have planters, but then shelves on top of the planters that are removable. And I haven't even discussed this with my husband yet, so I don't know how this will go, but so that early in the spring, I can get all my seeds planted, have them starting, and then take the shelves off later and plant inside the greenhouse to have a longer growing season in the fall. So I can start earlier in the spring, and then go later into the fall, because really the growing season in Vermont, especially this year, we had a late hard frost, which isn't entirely unusual. It's pretty known that you shouldn't plant your garden until after Memorial Day. A lot of people put it in before that. I mean, you can look at the weather and see what the weather looks like, and that's kind of what I do. Like, sometimes I've been able to plant up to like 2 weeks ahead of time. But this year we had a hard frost like the weekend before Memorial Day, and everybody freaked out. But I was like, this isn't unusual. This happens, which is why you're not supposed to plant your garden until after Memorial Day, or Memorial Day weekend is usually when people get them in. So this will allow me to, instead of like buying things like peppers and tomatoes, start them from seed in like March, late March, early April in the greenhouse, and have them started from seed, so it'll be a little bit less expensive. Start a bunch of them, maybe sell some of the seedlings as well, and then in the fall, and then later in the spring, I can actually plant in the planters, plant tomatoes and other things that plant them and have them go a little bit later into the fall, because our growing season is pretty much done by, September, end of September. Depending on the weather. I mean, it can get cold. It can be really hot in September. It can be really cold in September. So you never know. So it'll allow me to go into like October. Like the only things that really like make it into like October are like the pumpkins and stuff. And some of the, like, even most of the other squashes are pretty much done. I mean, there's cold weather crops that you can get. But for the things that most people plant, that's pretty much it. So yeah, I'm really, really excited to have a greenhouse and be able to extend my growing season a little bit. And, yeah, really looking forward to it. So anyway, this is the site of it. This is where it will be. The structure itself, the style is yet to be determined. But I think we're narrowing in on how we're going to do it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, hit the like button, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all next week with all new videos.